Number 5, we're going to move on to the generator function. This is going to allow for pausing and resuming functions, and they are not hoisted to the top of your code. This function is going to be declared using our function keyword and also the asterisk right at the end of our function keyword, just like so. Then after that, we are going to name our function generation, include our parentheses, and again, here is where you can add your parameters, then add our curly braces. Then we're again going to use our output variable, and we're going to change the inner HTML to a string that contains first generation, a dash, and an HTML break element like so. Then what we're going to do is go down below this, and we're actually going to type yield, and this is going to be where our pausing is going to happen once we start using our function. And that's the major difference when you use this generator function, is that you can pause and resume the function as you please using the yield keyword. So one more time, we're going to reference our output variable and the inner HTML again. And what we're going to do is say second generation down below here, so we can see the second generation, get rid of this dash and the break at the end. And lastly, we also want to add our plus operator here so we do not overwrite our inner HTML that we used up here. This is going to add second generation to the end of first generation. Now what we want to do is we want to create what's called an iterator, because we need to iterate through this generator function. So we're going to create a constant called gen, and we're going to make this equal to our generation function. And now what we want to do is actually call our function and use our iterator. So what we're going to do is reference our iterator, which contains our generation function, and then we're going to use dot and our keyword next. And what this is going to do is it's going to run the first line in our generation function here, and then it's going to pause wherever it sees this yield keyword. So we'll save and refresh, and now you guys can see it's printing first generation with our dash, but it is not printing our second line of code within our function here because our function is currently paused where it says yield. If we want to use this second line of code in our generation function, what we can do is reference gen again and then type next again, just like so. And what this is going to do is it's going to say we want to resume our code and use our next line here. And now you guys can see that it says first generation and second generation. And keep in mind, you can use yield multiple times in a generator function, but this is just a basic example to show you guys how this works. Generator functions are not hoisted to the top of your code, meaning you cannot call them before you declare them. So if I put my function calls above where I create the function, you're going to notice that it doesn't work, and our console has a cannot access gen before initialization error. That means we're trying to call it before we actually declared it. Click the card above to see what happens next.